Wait, it smells fine, right?
It's very cheddary.
You know what kind of smells like? Yeah, like this is my second time having these, but it kind of smells like those chips. No, it smells like the instant noodle, like those packets, like the spice packets. Also, whoops, we gotta. Sorry. Hopefully, we could actually edit our pre-podcast chat about chips.
Probably can.
Probably, yeah. Hopefully. Anyways, hello, hi, welcome to our special episode of the anime podcast. Today, we're just called Dubbed and Subbed.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not after school at UA, but if you could see, we have a poster right in front of us. A recent movie just came out.
Yep.
At least in the States, called Weathering With You, and it's made from the same folks that made Your Name, Makoto Shinkai. This is his, I believe.
There's a lot.
There's a lot of different movies he made. I think it's like more than 4. There's probably way more than that.
There's a lot. There's actually
yeah.
a lot.
There was before Your Name. There was one where it was about a student making shoes, and there was a lot of emphasis on feet. It was as much as a Quentin Tarantino movie. Did you not see that one?
I only ever watched 2 Makoto Shinkai films.
Oh, so it's just Your Name and this one. I know of the previous one before Your Name. I didn't see that.
So, my intro to Makoto Shinkai is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because I obviously know him because of Your Name.
Right.
But I also know him...
Go on.
because of Tumblr.
Okay, I want to hear this. Why Tumblr?
No, it was just that there are a lot of people that are obviously fans of Makoto Shinkai.
Right.
And whenever, something comes out and a lot of people like it, obviously they turn it into GIFs.
Yeah.
GIFs?
Oh, this is going to be...
GIFs. They turn it into GIFs.
Oh, she's throwing it into that section.
No, I did the same thing yesterday where I said GIFs and I thought about it and then I thought about the peanut butter. Anyways, besides the point. So,
okay.
Obviously there are a whole bunch of different communities on Tumblr, even though Tumblr is dead, rip Tumblr.
Yeah. They're family friendly now.
But anyway, so I knew of one of his films before I even knew of Your Name. And that was I don't remember what it's called, but it has a lot of rain in it.
I think it's the same one I'm thinking of.
I don't know.
It's rain and like just.
Which is a mukbang now, by the way.
Yeah, so that was a mukbang. We're having these Kalbi chips.
It tastes like pizza.
Yeah, pizza.
Actually, I don't know if they...
With melty cheese bits on it.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Yeah. Anyways, so let's just kind of get started. Mm-hmm. Sorry, salty food and podcast does not mix right now. Maybe when we actually do a formal mukbang. We should. I don't know why we haven't really done it.
We have one.
We did do
Impromptu one.
Impromptu. It turned into an ASMR video.
You did?
Did it? Oh, no.
Remember.
See, it's been a while then I haven't remembered. Anyway, so let's get back to this. So this movie was directed by Makoto Shinkai. Mm-hmm. It's right after Your Name, the worldwide phenomenon that your name was. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I felt I really enjoyed it, and I did like this movie.
Do you have a rating of it from like 1 to 10? I would
see the problem is with ratings. I feel like you apply a number to it, and then some people feel very personal.
How about like the binary rating, pass or fail, 1 or 0?
I think it's a pass. It's a pass because I came in with this movie just with the only expectation of I wanted to see another movie by this director. I did hear that some people came in thinking that they were going to get another Your Name. And that's really unrealistic.
I mean, you're basically relegating a director to one type of film the entire time. That's not going to work.
Yeah, and I feel like this is something I saw from YouTube, and I saw some some reviewers were talking about it. And I was like, oh, it's not like Your Name. It's like, what are you trying to say if you're trying to compare this to Your Name, you know? And I just wanted to talk talk about this movie on the set of its own merits versus trying to compare it to this giant elephant in the room, which is Your Name, you know? And Your Name, don't get me wrong, Your Name is a great movie. And I do understand what the director was saying to stop trying to put this movie on a pedestal. And because it's just like, and I had this discussion before, it's like a lot of people are going to put this, Your Name is on a pedestal, you know? And everything he does is going to be related to Your Name, you know? And I feel like that's not fair to the director and to the creators of this movie that has its own kind of beat, has its own kind of flair and flavor, you know, to it. And so, you know, I came in not expecting too much, and I got out really enjoying the movie. Yeah. Okay. You good? All right. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye. Anyways, so what do you feel about the movie? Or did you come in thinking certain things about it? You know, because that kind of plays into what you get out of the film too. You know.
Well, I don't know if I necessarily compared it to Your Name. Obviously, it looks the same. Obviously, it's the same director and stuff like that. But the message is kind of different. I kind of find it like similar to talking about like certain movies from the same director with different stories.
Yeah, there's like a style or like there's a film language to it.
So I just assumed it was a different story, anyways.
Yeah.
So the showing that I went to actually had like a post movie interview.
Really?
Makoto Shinkai. Yeah.
I did not have that.
Well, it was like it played after the credits. So
really?
It just had like an interview portion of it. Maybe yours had it, but you left during the credits. Maybe.
I left during the credits, and it was a Regal. I don't know if there's different.
I don't know. I had like a interview after. Well, not like he was there, obviously.
Yeah, it was like a pre-recorded like interview. Right?
Yeah.
Well, what did the interview say?
So.
Yeah, this is different. This is
one
new
of
to me.
the things that I heard was that this movie primarily talks about climate change. Obviously. You know, by the way, this podcast is probably going to be filled with spoilers.
Oh yeah,
spoilers.
Full spoiler review, by the way.
Yeah, and I thought it was very interesting that he decided to sink Tokyo. And then in the interview, he was saying how he wanted to know how Western audiences would feel about like a character outwardly like declaring his love and being like, I would want you over the perfect weather any day. Because to him, he said it was a controversial statement because nobody ever says that type of thing. So he was wondering how like Western audiences would see that and take it for themselves. And I think like the saying of him declaring his love doesn't really bother me in any way. Like after I heard it, I was like, yeah, I can see that. And like in a way, you can kind of acknowledge that it's a little bit selfish.
Yeah, I did get a little bit of that during my viewing of it.
Yeah, because you know, like if you look at it, it's basically like you're choosing like two extremes. Do you lose the person that you care for the most, or do you lose perfect weather every day? That's like something you'd expect out of Cards of Humanity. Like, what would you prefer? Like a really, really, really nice day, or losing the girl that you really, really like?
You know what? That's just the crazy thing is that you basically explained the ending of Life is Strange to me. I played. No. Don't get me wrong. I love the game, but if you don't know what Life is Strange is, season 1 and 2, and the mid-season short game they did, it was all about choices. And at the very end of the choice, you either want to continue to have your friend versus you basically lose a friend through this time loop, or you save your friend, just say fuck it all, and destroy the town.
But I think the circumstances are slightly different.
Circumstances slightly different. I think Withering with You has like a consistent rain, like a 70-day rain throughout.
Oh, actually, no. They're very similar. They're actually very, very similar. now that I think, no, because
we should sit down and actually play Life is Strange together.
Oh God, maybe. But anyway, yeah, no, I was like thinking in my head, like, no, they're kind of different because like, what's her name was like after. If the main character chooses to like save her, she's basically running for the rest of her life, dealing with like a whole bunch of traumatic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Weathering with You, you're dealing with rain every single day.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the view that this movie challenges is like, do you like? This is basically like that one experiment.
The trolley experiment.
Kind of, because it's like, do you choose to sacrifice one person for everybody else?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you choose to basically sacrifice everybody else for that one person? And the main character chooses not necessarily to sacrifice everyone else, but to cause it to rain
For 3 years at the end of it.
No, it's for the rest of time.
Oh,
because Tokyo, by the end of the movie, is perpetually sinking.
Yeah, it's perpetually sinking, and it's
never going to stop.
Did it say it was never gonna stop?
It's never going to stop.
I guess so.
Cause
There's permanent ramification for what he chose.
The only reason why he's like the whole ending portion of the movie is him like chasing after her while it's like really sunny, right?
Right.
The only reason why it was raining like the entire movie was because she was there.
Right.
And once she sacrificed her life, basically what they were saying was that everything goes back to normal. So whatever base weather Japan has, that's what would happen if she got sacrificed. Okay. So theoretically, if she got put back, like,
which happens at the end of the movie, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That means that Tokyo will be forever sinking.
And yeah, at the end of the movie, it's 3 years later. Kids have done their time, did their debt to society, and they came back together. A great ending.
Oh yeah.
By the way, and I think Your Name recently, if I remember correctly, there were some people saying that Makoto Shinkai has a certain feel to his movies, but only recently with Your Name felt like movies have to have like kind of a good ending. When all the stuff went down and I was crying like a little bitch, I'll fully admit that this movie did make me cry. Maybe not as much as Your Name, but
you know what?
but it had me feeling the feels.
I didn't cry at all.
No, you didn't.
No.
Even when he was like pleading her to like not go.
Our friend cried.
Oh, you were there with them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I like sat through the movie. I think in Your Name.
We're both softies then.
I think in Your Name I cried a little bit. Did I?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I cried either.
Yeah. Oh, you watched the subbed version, right?
Yes.
I watched the dub version. I watched it on a Regal Theater. You watched it in Atlantic. Not Atlantic. You watched it at an AMC.
Yeah.
Was it a?
I'm just kidding.
Or was it a special showing, or that they had the interview, or was it just?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Jeez, if there was an interview and I missed it, I feel like I'd spend $20 for a full ticket and not got everything out of it.
It's time to go again.
I don't think like they're doing their regular release right now, so I don't know if they. But anyways, there was a portion of this movie that had an Easter egg. What do you feel about the Easter egg?
The Your Name characters.
The Your Name characters, Taki and Mitsuha.
Let me tell you, when I was in the theater and I was talking to people, I was like, so like, theoretically speaking, right? The beginning where Taki comes in, he hasn't met her yet, right? Because he's still in his school uniform, and technically speaking, he shouldn't. Version of Taki in that movie should not have met Mitsuha yet.
Oh yeah, because there was no mention of.
Because he's too young.
Oh, okay.
And she's already older. Because, like, the way that the timeline works is that by the end of the movie, when everything goes back into order, Taki is slightly younger than she is.
But didn't Taki graduate from high school
He
at
did,
the end?
but he wasn't. He was still in high school when because he had a school uniform.
Oh, so well, what we're saying is that in this current
In the
Weathering with You, it's Taki is in high
Taki
school.
is still in high school and Mitsuha is already working.
Oh.
But anyway, going back to opinions. So I was talking in the theater, right? I was like figuring out
Which you shouldn't do. I'm just kidding. Go on.
No. This was after the movie was over. So I
Oh,
was like,
after the movie.
so I was like telling our friend, I was like, so like, it has to be that he exists before everything. And I was like rambling, right? And he goes, "It's just a cameo. It's not like it means anything." And then in the interview, he was like, "Oh yeah, no, Mitsuha and Taki exist in this universe. That one is the same one you see in the movie." And I was like, "I told you."
You're like, I am vindicated.
I told you I was right. But yeah, no.
I had a very visceral opinion about it until somebody explained to me that this was something that the director does a lot.
Yeah.
I was thinking that because of the popularity of Your Name, I had this notion and this idea that the director have to make these choices, whether he wants to or not, to include these characters because Your Name was so popular.
Did you get a reaction in your theater?
We did. We got whispers. It wasn't like, yeah, it wasn't like Marvel, you know. It was like,
Oh, Marvel's just like,
yeah, you know. But it was more like, oh,
yeah,
it's
that's
like
what
it was
happened
more
at
like a
ours, yeah.
thing. It wasn't like a holy shit. Iron Man is like, flicking his fingers.
Yeah,
and
no.
like,
In my theater, everyone was like,
yeah, yeah. But I felt this. I had a very visceral opinion that says that I was like, I feel bad for the director on a creative level because he felt like he had to like put this just because Your Name was so popular. But I've learned that previously in Your Name it had a cameo from his previous movie too. So maybe this was just something that he does. But because Your Name is such a thing that introduced me into his films, and I think he's a great storyteller and great director. When I got introduced with just Your Name and this movie, I just felt like, oh shoot, he's just making decisions just to try to put butts in seats, you know. But now knowing that this is a thing, it's like now I can't wait for the Makoto Shinkai cinematic universe. I'm just kidding.
I mean, it's probably gonna happen at this point.
Yo, you got someone that controls the weather, someone that controls time. No, I'm just kidding. Not time, just fates.
I want to think about it this way.
Yeah.
So like, a lot of people compare Makoto Shinkai to like Studio Ghibli, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's his name?
Hayao Miyazaki.
Yeah. So they compare both of those directors, right? I find it very interesting to compare the two, cause like, I personally think that like Hayao Miyazaki's films, the Studio Ghibli films, have more of a tendency to come out of a realm of like fantasy. And like the worlds that they live in and exist in also feel very whimsical and fantasy like, whereas Makoto Shinkai films feel very much more like
Grounded in a sense of reality.
yeah.
Yeah. Which also, speaking of, like this film also has very branded things. I was like, I left the movie thinking, hey, I think I want a Whopper. Not Whopper. I think I wanted a Big Mac. Sorry.
Well, honestly,
Yeah.
I was looking for the brand names while I was watching the film, and I thought they were gonna do the thing they normally do, which was like a McDonald's with a W. But it was a McDonald's, and they had like everything brand name. I was like, holy crap! They must have paid like so.
You
much.
get Seiko watches in there, and I think I saw maybe a Sony one. And there's some deep cuts to like some very traditional Japanese brands.
I want to think that maybe after like Your Name and maybe the success of other like
Films that he's done.
or just foreign films in general, I think maybe other companies are kind of at this point where they realize like
They're more willing to.
how much money they can make.
Yeah.
But obviously, like, since he's creating it in Japan, I'm pretty sure it's because Makoto Shinkai's name is basically like a household name
Yeah.
in Japan. So like
Now more so ever after Your Name.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I would only assume that maybe because of the success of Your Name and just the fact that he's basically known as the successor to Studio Ghibli, even though they're very, very different.
I feel like that's a super. I hope that doesn't get to that person's not ego, but like put too much stress on them, trying to fill the shoes of Studio Ghibli, which is not fair to kind of, he has his own voice, and I feel like he has his own something to say. And Miyazaki, as legendary as he is and everything he does, they're two separate anime directors,
I agree.
and I feel like they should be not compared in the same way.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think you can compare the both of them. I think you can say that they're very similar in their backgrounds, but
Yeah.
I think like where their films come from are inspired by different generations and different things. So
Yeah.
I honestly don't see Makoto Shinkai at all similar to Studio Ghibli. I think I can see the like.
I could see how an uninformed person would probably make that conclusion.
No, I think even if you're like not uninformed, I think you can make the connection because of how significant both of these directors are as like
In
names.
the Japanese kind of like canon
Like,
of filmmaking, or
well, I mean, like if you talk to anybody, just
Mm-hmm.
like any regular person, you mention Studio Ghibli, like the company name, not necessarily Hayao Miyazaki, but Studio Ghibli, most people will know what you're talking about.
Right.
But um, and then even now, I think it's the same, except you don't know the company, you know the movie.
Yeah.
So like, if you mention like, I don't think Your Name is that household of a name in America, but like, to more people than you would expect.
Right.
If you mention the name, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I remember watching that movie.
Yeah, yeah. You know the director, you know everything.
Yeah. But I think they're fundamentally very different directors.
Yeah. What else? So we dived into our first impressions. We did talk about the director. Just kind of overall, like I felt like this film was a very beautifully drawn. Like I think everything in this film did kind of stacked up above a little bit above Your Name, just by the way they rendered um both sound design and like the rain. It's a big upgrade from his previous movies, I feel.
You know what I noticed?
On a visual level. On a visual level.
I was watching the film, and I feel like when you watch Your Name, you get the sense that a lot of it is like hand drawn or just drawn.
Mm-hmm.
But like in watching Weathering with You, you kind of get the sense that some of it is CG, a little bit more than you do with Your Name.
A little bit more.
Yeah,
I
but
can
I
kind
think
of see that.
I think that's with the updated technology though, and I'm not like saying that it's bad or anything. I think what I'm saying is that it's more obvious.
You feel like it's the 3D effects, not 3D in like 3D gimmick 3D, but more like the 3D animation
I
took
think
you out of it a little bit.
maybe sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I will say though, like, so during the interview he mentioned how like this movie was specifically hard because when you draw something
Mm-hmm.
like an umbrella, you're not just drawing like an umbrella, you're drawing the umbrella with everything behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're drawing the water droplets with everything behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like watching the fish
Mm-hmm.
was like really really cool.
Yeah, the fish and when you go when you pointing out the whole umbrella thing, it's like I realize that it's something that's so small in I guess scope, but when you point out, you're like, oh, that is probably something very difficult to animate because it's a clear umbrella, and I think they kind of emphasized it a bunch of times. I was like, there's gonna be so many people buying clear umbrellas after this movie.
I would, I can only imagine. Like, I can't even imagine how much harder it would have been to make Weathering with You than to make Your Name, because Your Name is basically a movie where almost everything is a sunny day,
Right.
which I think in that sense you're basically drawing like just the sky and then whatnot. But with so much rain and water being incorporated, you have to take into consideration like the different landscapes that you're in, being in water in general. How does that affect the person? How does it affect the body?
Each
Excuse me.
individual droplet is kind of different in some way, shape, and form.
Exactly. So I personally think like as much as I think like certain things about Weathering with You were more obvious, I think a lot more work had to be put in order to make the movie.
I feel like it was a happy medium. There was portions of the film that I felt like some of the 3D animation kind of didn't meld very well with the hand drawn aesthetic that this anime kind of form
Yeah.
does. anime medium. Sorry. Um, the one thing was that 3D tracking shot where you see our two main characters on the top of the roof, and it pans from one like 180
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
another. But the way it did it, it was, for me, my first impression was very jarring. But the end result was very like awe inspiring because it was like the sun coming out for once.
Mm-hmm.
But just the fact that that little thing just kind of looked very jarring to me at the very first time. I need to
Yeah,
watch it again to probably get a better opinion on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, besides the actual like
Oh,
physical. Oh, did it die?
it died. Oh, let's just go ahead and we'll talk over the. I'll let this just be an audio portion,
Uh-huh.
just so we could wrap it up because we just did a whole episode of the anime podcast.
Yeah.
So I just think in general, I did enjoy this film. I feel bad for the director because I feel like a lot of people are gonna try to compare this with Your Name, but I did really thoroughly enjoy this film
Yeah.
from beginning to end.
Did you like the characters?
I did enjoy the characters. I just felt there was something that I just kind of realized while getting reintroduced to anime, and this is probably a topic for a different day, but I just felt like, oh, we just have like another set of young characters,
Mm-mm.
and I felt like, are we never gonna have characters that are like adult age, like Cowboy Bebop or Trigun or like Read or Die, or like characters that are not within the high school age range,
Mm.
But I guess that's part of the 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 modern kind of medium of anime. It's like, oh, it's these high school age characters, and I don't know if there's a deeper systemic reason for it. And I'm not trying to say systemic in a bad way, but like it's pattern. It's a pattern.
Yeah.
Um, what was your question? Sorry,
No,
I
it's
just
just how'd you like the characters? Do you feel like they worked very well for the story?
they
Did
work very
you
well. Yeah, they work very well with the stories.
did you have a standout? I liked the cat.
The cat's always gonna be the cat's. When you're in a movie and there's a cat, you gotta watch out. Because everybody's just gonna love that cat.
You know what? I will say though, I do also like the niece.
Yeah, the niece that the main character
Oh yeah.
that assumed that it was a mistress.
Actually, really off topic.
Hmm.
I realized that the dad was a little bit more complex than I originally thought.
Oh,
Not the dad, the
the
guy that he meets on the train.
yeah, that he has like a very tabloidy magazine that he
Yeah.
runs. Yeah.
I didn't at first. I thought it was gonna be like a very surface level character. You meet
Hmm.
him a little bit and then he leaves, but like you to get like the story about like his wants to take
Hmm.
his daughter out and stuff like that. It like provided some depth to his character, which I
Yeah,
found very interesting.
there's more going on than what is originally kind of like hinted at.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did enjoy. That's the thing about Motoko Shinkai that I do like, and I know that there's probably more directors, and I really need to start looking at other animes.
Mhm.
But like a lot of the characters are very textual. They're very tactile in the sense that they're not just one thing.
Yeah.
They're not just the copy paste bad guy or villain. I think this situation is like the villain of the movie is just the situation that these characters find themselves in.
Yeah.
Main girl has a brother and her mom passed away. They're living on their own. The homeboy is a child runaway from an island out just outside of Tokyo. You know, so these characters are.
Is he this world's Mitsuha? Because Mitsuha was on.
Yeah, she's the one.
Sorry. Besides the point. Anyway.
Yeah, she has like the red string of fate, right? That thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They go from different stories because this one was the Sunshine Girl and then the
Yeah.
original one was the Red String of Fate.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah. And unlike traditional animation or like Western style stories where there's a traditional like we can identify a bad character. I think this is not just something that Motoko Shinkai does, and I think this is just something that a lot of Japanese movies do. Is that a villain can be just the situation these characters find themselves in.
Oh, really, really off topic, really
Yeah.
fast. Do you feel like the gun was one of those things where it was like we gave meaning to an object that technically meant nothing.
Yes, I'm gonna say yes only
I
because
forgot the word for that. What's the a red herring? No,
MacGuffin.
is it a MacGuffin?
A MacGuffin is a term used for like something that has a great purpose and use. So let's say, well, yeah,
Sorry.
let's say for not the Last Jedi. What's the most recent Star Wars? Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. Okay.
Rise of
Yeah.
Skywalker. Sorry. Oh my God. Did that spell? Oh, is it empty?
It's basically
Oh, okay,
empty.
okay. Like Rise of Skywalker, the little pyramid locator thing for the Sith, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a red herring. That's an example of a red herring or a Maltese falcon, I guess.
Oh.
Where it's like it was an item that these characters are put in like so much meaning to it, or in game, not in game, but like in movie characters put a lot of meaning behind it, but it turned out to be nothing.
Yeah.
Did y'all in your screening felt like it was something big?
No, I just thought about it right now because like the gun kind of plays like a persistent role in the entire film, and it was just something he found in the trash.
Yeah.
So like, even like I want to say like however many months or days later after he finds the gun again in the place where the building where the damn whatever the heck she turned into a sun girl was
Yeah.
at. So I like as we were talking about it, I forgot to ask about the gun, and then I thought about it and I was like, does that count as something that technically has no meaning, but because of the movie it has meaning?
Or like because it was something in the beginning. Well, to be fair, there was a like in I think in Shinjuku or Shibuya, there's like these big screens, and they had like this big screen talking about guns, but the problem is like it's not like a Japanese anime show, like a show. This was a theatrical movie. It didn't translate what was on the screen. Yeah, it didn't tell us any important information. You just saw a bunch of guns and like ammunition was translated, but like
Yeah.
everything else wasn't. But you know that like, oh, there's like a gun warning out there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Even like, oh God, when in that final scene where he's like running to the building on the train tracks,
Yeah.
I already in my head was like, the gun's there. He's going back to where the gun is.
You were like going back to the gun. I was thinking like, oh, he's just going back to that shrine.
I knew he was going back to the shrine, obviously, but I was thinking, and I was like, but he left the gun there.
This is evidence.
No, I was just like, I remembered because he gets up, or what's her name? Oh God, I forgot her name.
See, I feel like we need to watch this twice because like your name, we get the character's name like down, but that's only because we watched it like
multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my first. But anyway, yeah, no, and so like he's like running back to the building, and I'm like thinking in my head like, oh, okay, well, of course he wants to go save her, and then I think back and I'm like, wait. He left the gun there because she like got really upset that he used it in the first place, and he's going.
He thought it was a lucky charm too.
Exactly, and then he tosses the gun, but he's going back to where he tossed the gun. And assumption-wise, no one's been in that building. But
right.
also, like, what are the chances that a building that's been that like destroyed still has the gun in the exact same place? Sorry, I'm just like.
No, that's kind of like you're like cinema sinning it. You're like after all these times, the gun is still there. Sin.
just a sin right there. No, I was just like. Obviously, we don't know how much time passes, but you can assume that it's been at least a couple months or weeks.
Couple weeks, yeah.
Yeah, but I was genuinely thinking like he's gonna go back to the building and he's gonna use the gun 100%, and it's not gonna end well. I already feel it.
I like how going back to the story a little bit, and not the Chekhov's gun portion of the podcast, but I like how they set up all the like basically the plot of the whole movie. Like the kid finds himself in the tabloidy like conspiracy paranormal.
Oh,
Basically he walked into a live version of like the paranormal board on Reddit. And that's how he got networked to find sunshine girls and stuff like that. And like that's why there's a continued investigation by the niece to like find more information about Sunshine Girl and what that sacrifice means and everything. So I think it's a sign of a very good storyteller that they set up all of these like different things. And in terms of, I think, score, I feel like it's not. I don't know. I feel bad by saying this, but like it doesn't seem as very memorable as first viewing than the Radwimps Your Name soundtrack.
Oh.
Did you have that problem?
See, I didn't think about it in terms of music, but our friend did.
Oh, did he?
He said that I think. Oh God,
We should really have him on this podcast.
you should talk to him.
Yeah,
But
we should talk to him.
I don't remember what he said,
Mm-hmm.
but he was talking about the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I am okay with the music in this movie. I actually think that Your Name had a slightly better.
Soundtrack. We had that discussion a little earlier too.
But you know what? I think the reason why I have this opinion is because like Your Name fits in musically a lot more like Western films than Weathering with You does. And what I mean by that is like in Your Name, right? You have much more of a very simple orchestraic soundtrack plus the main theme, which and then like um obviously you have that main intro portion where the music plays and stuff like that, which to me made it feel more like an anime because you know
It kind of sold the song.
you have the anime OP and whatnot, yeah. But I think like the fact that Weathering with You is structured so it has like one song that plays with the lyrics, and another song that plays with the lyrics, and another song that plays with the lyrics.
Don't get me wrong, it's great music, and like it's just the thing is, I can't, for like Your Name, I could instantly like leave the theater and just be like, okay, I know the song, But like with Weathering You, I don't think it had that same thing. I know for sure that I'm gonna buy the soundtrack, and I know for sure that I'm gonna get the next Radwimps album.
Yep.
But it's just something like maybe in a repeat viewing, it may get better.
I think like if I were to listen to the soundtrack, I feel like I would have a lot more different experiences versus me watching it in a movie theater and being very like to me it felt like it kind of like cut flow sometimes. Not to say that it was bad or anything. Like I love Radwimps, but like I also think that in terms of the movie, because like as a viewer from like America, I just like I'm so used to just having that one song and that doesn't even have lyrics. Like if you ever watch a regular movie, it's just like the orchestraic soundtrack.
Yeah, like Jaws soundtrack. Like that's
versus
very
like
iconic.
where you hear someone singing that's like a musical to me. But I wouldn't categorize Your Name or Weathering with You as a musical.
Yeah,
obviously, but
that's true.
like the only other Western film that I in my head can think of that has a song that has lyrics in it is the James Bond films.
James Bond, what?
James Bond.
James Bond film.
I think I tongue twisted that really hard.
Yeah, I was just like, well, to be fair, I'm also wearing these headphones too, so like it's only gonna pick up what you say.
Yeah. Anyways, the James Bond films where they have the intro, like the one where they have
guitar
Skyfall
riff?
with Adele.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Where they have the full song with the lyrics and it's just like a montage. That's the only Western film I can, in my head, think has kind of like that similar feel to like what I got with.
Similar draw. Speaking of openings, I did appreciate that this movie didn't have an opening. Yeah, I know that's kind of like counterintuitive because
did,
like the music, they didn't had an opening, but like didn't have a traditional, like the Your Name did have an opening, right? This one kind of
did.
Did it? It just kind of set up these characters together.
Yeah.
It wasn't kind of like I wasn't in a traditional. When I say traditional, I was saying like music and montage. Like an animated music video. Like in Your Name, it had this animated music video playing over this Radwimp song, introducing the characters and with all these credits. But, oh jeez, but you did kind of see some of the characters. There was spoilers in the opening. Like you saw Mitsuha as an adult.
Yeah.
In it, and so I think they were kind of they understood that. Maybe they could have done an opening, but they also wanted to make sure they didn't want to spoil anything in the movie. And this movie kind of has a different flow to it versus Your Name anyways. So, yeah. I don't know. Was there anything else that we didn't cover? We covered art. We covered the art style. We covered the characters. We covered the soundtrack. We covered the
Music.
score. We covered a little bit of the sound design. You know, of the rain coming in and sometimes the uses of silence.
I think that's about it,
I think
right?
that's about it. We could just kind of wrap this up. You
Yeah.
know, this half video, half audio podcast by accident. God damn my phone. Anyway, so
We could just change it into a full audio podcast.
oh yeah, we could. Anyways, just go ahead, like, subscribe, do all that beautiful stuff. If you want us to talk about any movies, let us know. I feel like if we continue doing this, maybe on the off season of My Hero and Violet Evergarden, we could just watch some anime movies.
Yeah.
There's some really good. I would recommend the stuff from Shitoshi Kon. He made Paprika. That was his breakout hit in the Western canon of filmmaking, but he died after that one. Yeah, he died of cancer, and but he has this body of work that influenced like modern directors. So like Perfect Blue, inspired Christopher Nolan to do some of the shots in Inception. So like we could go back and like watch those and like maybe Ghost in the Shell and stuff like that. So if you enjoyed us talking about films and anime in general, please lock it on to this channel. Ring that bell for any notifications. So we'll see you on the next time. Bye.
Of Foresight and the opinions of.
All Might.
I mean, not Foresight. What?
Mr.
Night Eye.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Farsight, sorry.
It's the opinions of Night Eye and then Deku, right? And Night Eye is